Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni, Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufa.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Victoria. Tundu MQ Abiola.
Morning, Mr. Ifeni.
I hope there's no hangover from the celebration of yesterday.
Mr. Ifeni, just put me on blast.
Well, you're fine, you're fine. Yes.
Take small jam question. What color is this?
Okay.
It's from the purple family.
Mr. Ifeni, it's livid. Livid. Livid.
No.
It's called livid.
That's when you are going technical. When you are going technical, but it's part of the purple family. Okay, let's start the review of today's newspapers from around the world with This Day, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story, APC, PDP senators rally to pass e-transmission of election results. Senate begins clause-by-clause consideration of Electoral Act Amendment Bill today. Lawan admits pressure, gets 900 text messages. Yes, the Senate president complaining yesterday about text messages from Nigerians. Well, that is how it is. If you cannot stand the heat in the kitchen, then you get out of the kitchen. But if you are a public servant, if you've been elected by the people and you become the Senate president, then you should expect some pressure. Otherwise, it will just be a jolly ride all the way. Now, the electoral bill will be tabled today, and according to the reports we have with us, there is some consensus between the APC and the PDP senators to pass the e-transmission clause in the bill. But again, if we look at what some other newspapers are reporting, the Vanguard, to be specific, transmission post results where feasible. That's what, according to the Vanguard newspaper, what is in the bill right now is transmission of results where feasible. But we believe it is feasible to transmit the result from every part of this country. So let nobody deceive Nigerians. That's only feasible in some part. That in itself will be creating some loopholes for those who have rigging intentions. Vanguard, transmit polls where feasible. Senate report. Lobby lawmakers don't blackmail. National Assembly leadership, Lawan tells Nigerians. Says those accusing National Assembly leadership are rabble-rousers. Yes, if those who want the right thing to be done are being called rabble-rousers, so be it. But the Senate, the House, and the National Assembly indeed has to do what is fit and proper for free, fair, and credible election. All we want is a fair, just electoral law. Afenifere, nothing wrong with Lawan asking Nigerians to lobby their lawmakers. According to the Arewa Consultative Forum, let Senate make laws to make INEC truly independent. Ohaneze, there's no blackmail. Do what Nigerians want. Pandef tells National Assembly. Lawmakers will answer to Nigerians if they fail to do their bidding. Middle Belt Forum. So all interest groups, Nigerians are alert and will all keep vigil to see what the senators will be doing to ensure that what Nigerians want what is fit and proper for credible election is what comes out as the final electoral bill that will be sent to President Muhammadu Buhari for his accent. Now, other stories. The Guardian newspaper, 40 days of Twitter ban. Federal government projected tax earnings undermined by fewer users. Twitter unlikely to bend rules as losses reach 96 billion naira, says Teniola. SMEs contributing 48% to GDP, worst hit by ban, according to a survey. Now, according to this report, the expectation of the federal government that it will rake in billions from Twitter may not be so after all, because findings have shown that the planned tax earnings from technology companies, especially Twitter, might not really be pronounced. The report goes further to say this is because, contrary to claims that there are about 40 million Twitter users, findings have shown that there are just 3.05 million potential audience that Twitter reports can be reached with adverts on the platform. So much for projection. Now, the Punch newspaper, debt servicing rises, gobs 72% of federal government revenue. Debt servicing to revenue ratio jumped from 54.66% in 2019 to 72% in 2020. Ratio higher because of indiscipline. We may lose infrastructure to creditors. Pat Utomi, professor of economics. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, PIB, National Assembly may stick to 3% oil profit for host communities. Senate may leave INEC to decide on electronic transmission of results. That's what the Daily Independent is reporting. Well, the PIB, with all its sticking points, is still somewhere, but the communities are saying 3% is too little for the sacrifice and contributions they make to the nation's coffers. Now, the Business Day newspaper, 50 years after OPEC gains still evade Nigeria. Yes, as OPEC is celebrating 50 years of its existence, Nigeria is a clear example that a natural resource such as oil is not necessarily a blessing. This is the Business Day reporting, but that report in itself looks like a commentary or an opinion of the newspaper. Now, the Business News newspaper, NNPC under remits 3.8 trillion naira from crude oil sales in 1 year. The Senate yesterday, yes, this happened in the Senate yesterday, at its plenary, faulted the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation over alleged under remittance of 3.8 trillion naira revenue from domestic crude oil sales to the Federation account between January and December 2015. It therefore urged the corporation to desist from further deduction at source, as the practice contravenes Section 162, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And as a result, it mandated the Federal Accounts and Allocation Committee, FAC, or any other approving authority to urgently approve agreed percentage which should be allocated to the NNPC monthly as operational costs to prevent its operations from being adversely affected. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, no gas to power plants in Nigeria. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company boss is revealing, tells you why we have the sorry situation in the electricity situation. According to the boss of this company, Mr. Chiedu Ugbo, he said that despite the company's capacity to generate more than 5,000 megawatts of electricity, it generates just 700 megawatts for sale due to the lack of capacity by the distribution companies to absorb the available power. This is still a problem. Capacity to generate is there. The generating companies are ready to generate, but the evacuation and the distribution remains a problem. Little wonder we are still having darkness in many parts of the country.
Well, on that note, Emmanuel Efene, we'll take a short break, but stay with us. When we return, the review of newspapers will continue. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Emmanuel Efene is still with us, reviewing top stories in newspapers from around the world. Efene.
Yes, let's look at the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story again: bandits, IPOB militia on the prowl. Kogi monarch abducted, businessman killed in Bauchi. 3 policemen, football club chair, manager shot in Anambra. ESN killed two soldiers in Enugu. Katsina, Daura Emirates suspend Salah festivities. 6 persons kidnapped in Abuja. Yes, the story of insecurity still very much on some front pages. Now, below the photograph on the front page of the Daily Trust, Federal Executive Council approves 309.9 billion road contract for Dangote. Yes, according to the report, the roads totaling 274.9 kilometers will be advanced by the company at local costs and will be recouped by tax credits. That's according to the report. So yesterday, the Federal Executive Council approved those number of roads worth 309.9 billion to Dangote Industries. Now, the direct newspapers also on insecurity. Nigeria to deploy robots, artificial intelligence to fight criminals. Senate urges security agencies to collaborate with the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. I thought that should be a no-brainer. Now, the foreign newspapers, quickly before I come to you. The Guardian newspaper of UK, Amazon alarm as rainforest now emits more carbon dioxide than it absorbs. The region is a net polluter, say scientists, as fires and clearances intensify. Yes, the Amazon rainforest, once regarded as the area capable of absorbing carbon dioxide emitted, now produces more than it emits. And this is as a result of fires and clearance by farmers who resort to bush burning to clear their farms. And this in itself is a very worrisome concern for scientists as the climate crisis continues. Now, the Daily Mail newspaper, yes, the Daily Mail newspaper of UK, snack tax to fight fat crisis. Yes, plan for levy on salty and sugary foods. 9 pence on Mars bar, 87 pence on Frosty's box. Fruit and veg prescription. Now, the snack tax, which some ministers have recommended, is to help Britain fight this obesity within the UK society, and it's called War on Obese Britain. This snack tax will bring in as much as £3.4 billion a year, and of course that amount is being added to the shopping list of families. But the good thing is that this amount will be used to pay GPs to prescribe fruits, vegetables, cookery classes to help families that are having problem of obesity. Now, the Wall Street Journal, China's economy slows to growth of 7.9%. Rate is much lower than 18.3% in first quarter, but continues to show resilience. But on the other side, the other story, about the U.S. economy, Powell says the Fed will raise rates if inflation risk persists. Of course, one of the consequences of the U.S. economy coming out of the pandemic is that there is inflation that is going up continually. But the chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is saying that if this continues, the central bank wouldn't hesitate to raise rates to keep inflation under control. But he emphasized that he still expects that price pressure will ease by the later part of this year. Ruben Rufai and Tundu.
I think Jay Powell has finally come out to say this and speak it the way it should be said, that inflation is rising, and inflation is not transitory, as it were. It is sticky. I mean, what Jay Powell was trying to say yesterday, yes, we'll put in a caveat, we'll raise it. Formerly, that was not a narrative from Jay Powell. He was talking about further years, maybe 2022, for him to be able to raise interest rates. But now, it has come home to roost. After those numbers came out of the US, 5.6, increase in, commodity price and the like, CPI numbers, and all of that out of the United States. One thing is certain across the Eurozone, inflation is on the rise. Yesterday, Deputy Governor on the Bank of England, too, was saying that anytime soon they should look critically at raising interest rate because inflation is on the bounce. And when you look at, reports from companies like JP Morgan and other banks making profit once again during the pandemic season, you'll see that everything to push inflation is up. There's more demand in the market, and this is the time to stem things down by raising interest rate. So I'm excited that across board, across the Fed and across the Bank of England, everybody is saying, yes, we're looking at inflation critically. Some people are still saying, albeit, transitory is going to level out at a point in time. But some people are saying it's going to grow bullish. The inflation numbers are going to increase according to the years. And that's how it's going to continue for a while because the economy is opening back up and things are beginning to look good. But some people too, some analysts are looking at this Delta variant. Maybe it can stop the push, as regards opening up the economy and the likes. Good one coming out of the UK about taxing Mars bars, chocolate and salt. Chocolate and salt always are culprits when it comes to obesity. Now they're beginning to tax that to make better choices because they want a fitter England. And obesity has been linked to many diseases and the likes. Even it's been scientifically proven that people that had big bouts of COVID-19, their weight too did matter in all of this. And it's a great way for England to tackle obesity, especially the rising levels of childhood obesity, which is on the rise now in England. And this is the way to go with that tax money.
Well, from the story of this day, we commented on it earlier on during the headlines, but I think it's important to again restate the point that, look, the whole point about electronic transmission of results as originally proposed under Clause 52 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is to ensure transparency, to ensure accountability, to ensure that the people's vote counts. If it is proposed on one hand that electronic voting is possible, it will be most strange for any lawmaker in the two chambers of the National Assembly to then say that electronic transmission of results would not be possible. I mean, as Professor Atahiru Jega pointed out, it's a package, the hardware, the software. If it is possible for you to vote electronically, then it should be possible for that result to also be transmitted electronically. And as you pointed out, there wouldn't be any challenge with regard to infrastructure in this particular case. So we would like to see what comes out of the deliberations in the National Assembly as they try to conclude their work on the electoral bill amendment before they go on vacation, because they've promised that. I hope that the process will not be aborted and they will proceed on recess. Now, the other issue that you brought up is the front page of, was it Daily Telegraph, about there being no gas to run power plants in Nigeria. And the MPDHC boss,
the Niger Delta Power Holding Company,
is said to be blaming the disco. I think, look, the point is not about blaming this person or that group. I think it's a case of suffering in the midst of plenty. Nigeria has trillion cubic feet of gas. Only the other day, Minister of State for Petroleum, Timi Presiva, was even saying they've just discovered 260 trillion cubic feet of gas and more even. Like, it could even be more than that. Accidentally, he said. He probably said accidentally because they didn't set out to originally look for the gas. And if you look at the inland basins in Nigeria, there are studies that have indicated that whether from the Chad Basin to the Gongola Basin, to the Adamawa Basin, to the Benue Trough, all the way down, that Nigeria is actually a gas country. We not only have the largest reserve in Africa, we have one of the largest reserves even in the world. And yet, every time we say there is no gas, there is no gas to fire, to provide the electricity. So there is a problem with the gas to power project initiative in Nigeria. And that's why you see these people trading blames. Today, they are blaming the GENCOs. The GENCOs, the generating companies, 28 of them, they will blame NBET, the bulk trader. The bulk trader will say, oh, it's the discos. I think we really need to take another look at that electricity mix in Nigeria. And nobody has been able to summon the courage. So blaming this person, blaming that person, I don't think is the problem. We export gas, by the way, about 41% of what we produce. And yet, we can't have the same gas here in Nigeria to fire all our thermal plants. Most of the power stations, they are all thermal plants, and yet no gas. Only 3 are hydro plants. So it's something that we'll need to talk about at some point and try to see who is responsible for this terrible failure. And can we also begin to talk about renewables? There isn't enough conversation around renewable energy. So, typical Nigerian story anyway.
I want to talk about the obesity issue that you read. It reminded me of an old article written by Boris Johnson in his previous incarnation as a journalist that was headlined, "Face it, it's your own fat fault," which is so typical of Bojo. Anyway, it's really about excise tax, really. It already exists in the UK. It's what is perceived of as sin tax. You have to be taxed to enjoy these indulgences that are not good for you, like alcohol, in which I barely partake. Thank you very much, Mr. Feni. Take note. Cigarettes, really. Cigarettes and sugar. So it's your sin tax or health tax. But I do wish the UK government would address the actual issues underlining a lot of obesity, which is poverty and inequality. It's easier for a lot of people to just grab a Mars bar when you cannot actually afford to cook a meal for your children. When you're working several jobs and cannot make a stir fry for your children, or what have you. See, I always talk about children, or for yourself, or whoever it is. You just reach for what is cheaper. It's actually quite expensive. The other day you were talking about tangerines, Rufai, and I remembered how much it actually costs. Tangerines, satsumas, they're quite expensive in the UK. Yes. So that's what they should be looking at, really. Rather than taxing sugar, they should look at both and have a balance.
Yeah.
Okay. This is some step towards fighting obesity. Yes, you don't, even though you don't take alcohol, you can indulge in other things and still have a hangover. No problem.
Like taking, okay. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Oh, no.
Advertisement for
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel Feni. Thanks.